Hello, I'm T.
Hi, I'm B.
And we're talking today about
The Golden Mean
by Annabel Lyon. I keep wanting to add an S to her name. Sorry, if you're watching, I apologize.
And The Golden Mean, what is it, you might ask? Because not all of us were brought up in a household with an Aristotelian philosopher, as I was.
Were you really?
Yeah, my
Oh,
dad
wow,
was
that's so
hardcore Aristotelian.
So you were prepared?
Well,
a little bit.
Mentally. So The Golden Mean is between two...
Aristotle thought you should live a
See,
life
I don't even remember. Of virtue.
I was going to
Okay.
say mediocrity, but I think modesty is more...
Yeah, moderation.
Moderation
is actually
Yeah.
the way to go. And between two vices
Yes.
lies the perfect balance
Which
of
is?
moderation, which is the golden mean.
Da-da-da.
And this book is a novel based on the life of Aristotle.
Yeah.
Which is super interesting to read about because really I'd never thought of him as an actual person before.
Exactly. And it was interesting to read it and realize just how much of his life influenced his...
the way he thought.
Yeah, and how much of the way he had thought seems to. I mean, it's not
super
not
black and white.
non-fiction,
Yeah,
so.
yeah. It's not like
But-
a biography, but
the influences back and forth and the connections between his life and what he espouses in this
Yes.
are interesting. So she won for the Writers' Trust 2009.
Rogers Writers Trust.
Rogers Writers
Don't
Trust
forget to
Award.
put the plug in the right place there.
Yeah, and was also nominated for both the Giller
And the GGs.
Which-
So quite well lauded, this
Yeah.
book, and rightfully so. It's very good writing and very appealing in a kind of universal knowledge kind of way. Like because the story's based on fact, and it has all these, Alexander the Great is in it, because he is a student of Aristotle, and
who goes on to maim and torture
Yes.
Aristotle's nephew.
Clement, please return to front cash.
Clement, please return to front cash.
See,
Sorry.
we're holed up in my little dungeon, so
So please excuse.
the interruptions.
I
I thought it was well done. I found it interesting because in the writing, like he's very removed from his life, and there were in
Yes.
many ways and that's what he talks about
Yeah.
is rationality above all.
Yeah.
And there were times when I was reading it and I felt removed from the story,
Mhm.
and I don't know if that I'm trying to decide why that was. I think in part it was just the nature of what she was trying to convey about him.
Yeah, and I think it's a style too in
Yeah.
this type of kind of novel based on history.
Yeah.
It
Historical
happens.
fiction,
Yeah,
sort
it's
of.
kind of
Yeah.
it moves in that way, and I don't think it detracted necessarily from what she was trying to do at all. I think
No.
it was part of what she was trying
Yeah.
to do. And I also really enjoyed getting into the psyche of Aristotle. In this version of his life, he is bipolar, I guess would be kind
I
of the
guess
right
that's
term
the
for it.
More modern term. Yeah.
And he can't really cope with a lot of things that happen to him, and he goes to a dark place where he can't function emotionally, basically. And
It's
he
kind
gets
of the intellectual Elizabeth Gilbert.
a little bit, yeah. And
Sorry.
he goes through this to get himself out of it. He has to experience the world again, and see the beauty in the world, which I found really striking. Like sometimes he would just be, say, looking at the sky or something and be noticing something that seems mundane but that actually is beautiful, and seeing him experience that, or witnessing through the book, was really a kind of a beautiful thing, because really his whole philosophy and the classification of things, which we still use to present day in a way.
Yeah, very much so. Just like the scientific method.
Yeah, it's amazing what
Yeah.
he did for the world. You realize that it's almost playful for him,
Yeah.
the way he has to do that. He just, it's a compulsion that that makes his life worthwhile. So
Well,
it's,
and I think it's
quite-
interesting the way she draws these mundane things.
Yes.
Or what could seemingly be mundane, but makes them an interesting avenue for him to find his way out of his depression.
Exactly.
It's a real testament to how she writes these minute minutes or moments in life that are able to draw him further out of
Exactly.
the,
And also the characters are really, really well drawn. Like
Yeah.
his wife, which of course I forget her name, which is awful.
which one, the first or the second?
Yes, well, both of them actually,
Yeah.
because they're equally interesting as characters because they're completely opposite.
Yeah.
And you know, Alexander and Alexander's brother, who is at the beginning when we first meet him, completely unable to function.
He's a guy who suffered a brain
injury as a child,
and people just left him in a corner to rot.
Yeah, basically. I mean, he had a nurse, but that was it, right? And then Aristotle starts teaching him, and he reaches a certain potential, which was far exceeded what anybody thought he could get to.
Well, I thought it was interesting too because it deals a bit with the tension between Alexander and his brother. And the shame and the hiding, and you know, the story I thought was really interesting in that both characters grow by their exposure to this person.
Yeah, and it had some very, very beautiful moments, and it's an important work. And so for me, I say very nice. I liked it a lot. Thank you, Annabel Lyon.
Yes, it gave me an enjoyable couple of days.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
Because we're suffering allergies and colds right now, so we don't feel very enjoyable at the moment. But
Pardon me.
See?
So, and I would say go out, buy it, read it, you will enjoy it. Just don't expect it to be one of those modern interpersonal...
Well,
it
funny
is,
in a way.
but-
It kind of is. As you say that, I'm like, interesting. Because I had one little thing about the book that always put me off guard, which is a very modern thing, and it's the use of a swear word in this book.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit taken aback. The F word is throughout. Okay, so it kind of was like, really, but by the end I was like, well, why not?
Well, and it's interesting
like-
because I read Edith Grossman did a translation of Don Quixote.
Yeah.
And she writes it in more modern language.
Yeah.
And when I was reading it, I had the same reaction. You know, you're listening to sort of more modern words in this setting that you assume is so ancient.
So classical.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing for me, I guess, and this is also my father's kind of upbringing, right?
Yeah.
So for me it's jarring because I come from that and we don't say that. And
I know.
So it's like one of these things where I don't link that kind of language
With
to
that
that classical
intellectual rigor.
intellect.
Yeah.
But that there's no reason for that in practical terms. So interesting. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Bye.